My sister didn't invite me to the $60,000 wedding I paid for. At the altar, right before her vows, the LED wall lit up. From the donor they disinvited, and the whole internet watched her meltdown in real time. I knew it was a mistake the second I stepped through the front door and smelled the expensive candles, the kind my mother only bought when she was expecting important people, not just her son. My name is Eli Stein. I'm 32 years old, living in Palo Alto, California, working as a cybersecurity engineer for a startup you've probably never heard of. Every year for Hanukkah, my family acts like it's an award show. My sister Naomi, the golden child, always center stage. Me? I'm lucky if they remember I exist between courses. I showed up that night in my usual uniform, hoodie with my company's logo, jeans, and sneakers. It wasn't sloppy or anything, just me. Comfortable. Practical. But the second my mother opened the door, her smile flickered. "Oh," she said, as darting down to my sneakers. "You made it." Inside, the house was dressed up like a magazine spread. Gold accents on the menorahs. Designer tableware. Naomi floated in from the dining room, wearing some kind of silk dress that probably cost more than my rent. "Look who decided to join us," she chirped, loud enough to turn heads. Then, without missing a beat, she added, "Didn't realize hoodies were haute couture this year." My parents chuckled politely, trying to pretend it was all in good fun. I just smiled tight and shifted the bag in my hands. Inside were the homemade cookies I spent all afternoon baking, and a few modest gifts I knew they wouldn't appreciate. I set them on the kitchen counter while Naomi leaned in, tossing her hair back like a shampoo commercial. "So, still doing that nerdy tech stuff?" she asked, her voice syrupy sweet. "Or did you finally hack into a social life?" A few relatives nearby chuckled. My mom bit her lip, trying not to smile. Dad patted my shoulder like he was comforting a wounded dog. "Naomi," Mom chided lightly, though she was clearly amused. "Be nice. Your brother works in cybersecurity, right?" She said it like she wasn't sure. I nodded. "Yeah, startup's doing pretty well, actually." "That's nice, sweetheart," she said, already turning back toward the oven. The conversation was over before it even started. Naomi looped her arm through her boyfriend's and whispered something that made him snort. I caught the word basement and pretended I hadn't heard it. The evening dragged the way it always did. Naomi performed her Instagram perfect life story at the dinner table, her recent brand deal, the followers she gained last quarter, the wedding plans with her European photographer fiancé, Luca. Mom and Dad hung on to every word, nodding and clapping at the right moments, as if she was delivering a TED Talk. Meanwhile, I sat there picking at my brisket, invisible. When the presents were passed out, I handed over the gifts I had brought, practical, thoughtful things I knew they could actually use. My mother smiled vaguely. Dad muttered, "You didn't have to, Eli." Naomi opened her gift last. I had found her a limited edition planner she mentioned months ago, something sleek and minimalist she would actually love if she gave it a chance. She barely glanced at it before tossing it onto the pile. "Ah, thanks," she said. "But I mostly just use my phone now." The homemade cookies I made, carefully boxed and tied with a blue ribbon, sat untouched on the counter. I swallowed the lump in my throat and smiled. It was easier than trying to explain how it felt, carrying around this invisible weight of never being enough. Easier than letting them know how much it stung when your own family treated you like background noise. As the night wound down and everyone posed for pictures in front of the menorah, Naomi grabbed Luca's arm and said loudly, "Let's get one without Eli in the background. It'll look cleaner." Nobody said anything. Nobody protested. I told myself I didn't care. I told myself I was used to it. But as I stood by the door putting on my sneakers, I felt it. That sharp, familiar ache, the one that reminded me that no matter what I built, no matter what I earned, I would always be the kid in the hoodie, standing on the outside looking in. I should have known brunch wasn't just brunch when Naomi called me herself to invite me, acting all sugary sweet, like we hadn't just spent Hanukkah pretending I was invisible. A week after that awkward Hanukkah dinner, I found myself sitting at a trendy brunch place Naomi had picked, all exposed brick walls and $17 avocado toast. The kind of place where the menu didn't have prices, just suggestions. I stirred my black coffee and checked my watch. 10 minutes late already. Naomi loved making an entrance. When she finally floated in, Luca trailing behind her, she was all smiles and air kisses. "Eli," she gushed, like we were old friends meeting for the first time in years. "You look so good. Are those new sneakers?" I glanced down at the same beat-up sneakers from last week. "Yeah, fresh out of 2019. She laughed a little too hard and slid into the booth across from me, signaling for a waiter like she owned the place. Mom and Dad showed up right after, Mom in her pearl earrings, Dad in his usual golf shirt. I raised an eyebrow. A full family meeting? Definitely a setup. The conversation started harmless enough. Updates about Luca's photography gigs, Naomi's brand expansion, whatever that meant. I nodded along, sipping my coffee, wondering when they'd get to the point. Finally, after the food came, Naomi leaned forward, voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. So, she said, flashing a bright, practiced smile, you know how smart and successful you are, right? I froze mid-bite. There it is. Mom nodded eagerly. Your startup must be doing so well, honey. Dad chimed in. Crypto stuff, right? Very lucrative. I set my fork down. Cybersecurity. And no, I don't do crypto. Naomi waved a manicured hand. Whatever, tech wizardry. Point is, you're doing amazing. Meanwhile, poor Luca and I are drowning trying to plan this wedding. She pouted, like she expected me to feel sorry for her. The venue we fell in love with in Tuscany, she continued dramatically, it's just a little over our budget. And catering. And photography. And the videographer who'll live stream everything for my followers. Mom sighed loudly, as if the weight of having such a burdened daughter was too much to bear. Dad cleared his throat. Family means helping when it's hard, son. I blinked. Wait, are you? Naomi rushed in, laying it on thick. Eli, you're so talented. You don't even have kids or a mortgage or anything yet. You're basically in your prime earning years. You don't need all that money sitting around making you lonely, right? Her words hit harder than she probably realized. Or maybe exactly as hard as she intended. I stared at her, feeling that old familiar tightening in my chest. The unspoken rule, my life wasn't real because it didn't fit their mold. No wife. No kids. Just me and my hoodie and my nerdy tech job. You want me to fund your wedding? I asked slowly, making sure I understood. Naomi gave a little shrug, like it was the most reasonable thing in the world. Just the basics. Venue, catering, the live stream package. And the influencer video deal, obviously. It's an investment. Think of the exposure. Dad nodded. It would mean a lot to your mother. Mom dabbed her eyes with a napkin she didn't need. Family pulls together in times of joy, Eli. You'll understand when you have your own. Naomi sipped her mimosa and gave me a wink. And it's not like you'll be needing that money for a honeymoon or anything. I clenched my jaw. Part of me wanted to laugh in their faces. Part of me wanted to walk out and never look back. But mostly, I just felt that old familiar heaviness, the one that told me if I said no, I would be the bad guy. The outsider. Again. So I swallowed it all down. Like always. Fine, I said, my voice flat. I'll cover it. Naomi squealed and clapped her hands like a game show host announcing a prize. Mom beamed. Dad smiled like he'd just closed a deal. Nobody asked if I could afford it. Nobody asked if I wanted to. Because to them, my life, my money, was just sitting there, waiting for them to take it. I signed the check that afternoon. Full payment for the venue, catering, live stream setup, and the custom influencer package. Nearly 60 grand in total. As I walked back to my car, I told myself it was fine. Just money. Just a gesture. But deep down, I knew better. Deep down, I knew this was a mistake I wouldn't be able to forget. The wedding was 2 weeks away, and still no invite had arrived, but somehow, my credit card bill had. The days after that brunch dragged by like molasses. Every time the mail arrived, I felt that little stupid flicker of hope. Maybe today. Maybe they didn't really mean to leave me hanging. Instead, all that showed up was a bloated credit card statement. The line item for Villa Casina dei Fiori, Tuscany wedding deposit, blinking back at me like a bad joke. I told myself they were just busy. I told myself it was a simple oversight. But by the time the wedding week rolled around and Naomi's Instagram exploded with glamorous pre-wedding posts countdown to forever. Bachelorette brunch in Milan. I couldn't lie to myself anymore. They weren't busy. They were celebrating without me. I finally broke down and texted Naomi. Me, hey, didn't get my invite yet. Is it electronic or mailed? No response. An hour passed. 2. Finally, my phone buzzed. Naomi. Oh, meant to tell you. It's a super intimate ceremony. Black tie only. Hope you understand. I stared at the screen, reading it 3 times. Hope you understand. Like it was no big deal. Like being excluded from my own sister's wedding after bankrolling the whole damn thing was just another scheduling hiccup. I called her. Straight to voicemail. Furious, I called my mother. She picked up on the second ring, her voice syrupy sweet like nothing was wrong. Sweetheart, she chirped. How's my boy? I cut straight to it. Am I seriously not invited to Naomi's wedding? There was a pause. Then, carefully, honey, you know these destination weddings are complicated. Small venue, limited seating. It's not personal. Not personal, I repeated, my voice dangerously low. After I paid for it? A soft sigh on the other end. You have to admit, Eli, this isn't really your scene. The guests, it's black tie, influencers, media people. We didn't want you to feel uncomfortable. Uncomfortable. As if they were doing me a favor by locking the door in my face. And besides, she added, voice dropping into that familiar guilt-trip tone, you don't really know anybody there. It would have been awkward. I swallowed, hard. I'm your son. I'm her brother. Another beat of silence. Then she said, Even softer, you understand, right? No apology. No shame. Just the expectation that I would take it, like I always did. Something inside me shifted, like a fault line finally giving way. I pulled the phone from my ear and ended the call without another word. I sat there on the edge of my bed, staring at the wall, my heart hammering so loud it drowned out the quiet. For 32 years, I had swallowed it. The small slights, the backhanded compliments, the way they loved me only when it was convenient. I thought maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. Instead, they proved exactly who they were. Fine. If they saw me as an embarrassment, a prop, a walking wallet, then that's what I would become. A slow, cold resolve hardened inside me. They wanted a show? I'd give them one they would never forget. If they thought I was going to sit back quietly after funding the biggest insult of my life, they really didn't know me at all. The morning of Naomi's wedding, my apartment was silent except for the hum of my laptop. I had spent the last 3 nights writing code, tweaking scripts, testing them again and again until they were perfect. This wasn't about crashing the wedding or burning it all down in some messy tantrum. No, it had to be clean, precise, elegant, and poetic. The beauty was in the details. Naomi's whole wedding aesthetic was built on tech, the venue's LED walls, the synchronized drone cameras, the big influencer live stream package. All of it had been set up by the companies I paid for. And, thanks to my little donor privileges, I had insisted on overseeing the initial network setup during the contract phase, just a security audit, I'd called it. No one had questioned me. After all, who would doubt the nerdy brother footing the bill? I leaned back in my chair now, double-checking the remote access triggers. The audio takeover. The LED light sequences. The preloaded media files. Everything was ready. I didn't even need to be there. I would be thousands of miles away while the perfect storm played out right over their heads. All I had to do was push the button. Meanwhile, across the world at the Villa Casina dei Fiori in Tuscany, Naomi's dream wedding was already in motion. Luca stood at the altar in a sleek designer tuxedo, smiling like a man who thought the world was his for the taking. Naomi was practically floating down the aisle, camera ready in her silk mermaid gown, every step rehearsed for maximum aesthetic impact. Hundreds of guests perched at their tables, influencers, brand reps, minor celebrities, all glued to their phones, streaming the ceremony live. The rooftop LED wall behind the altar flickered, cycling through soft pinks and golds. Naomi's perfect palette. The officiant cleared his throat to begin the vows. That was my cue. Back in my apartment, I clicked execute. At first, it was subtle. The live stream on everyone's phone suddenly froze, mid-sentence, mid-smile, buffering circles spinning ominously. Confused murmurs rippled through the crowd. Then the rooftop LEDs blinked, once, twice, before reconfiguring into massive blocky text. From the donor they disinvited. A sharp gasp swept through the audience. Naomi's smile faltered. Luca glanced around, confused. Before anyone could react, the venue's massive speakers, the ones Naomi insisted on renting to create a cinematic experience, kicked into gear. And then it started. A remix, heavy bass, synth-thumping playing footage of Naomi's cringiest old influencer videos. The ones she had spent thousands trying to erase from the internet. There she was at 21, lip-syncing badly to a Meghan Trainor song in her messy bedroom. Then Naomi again, peddling detox teas with a fake British accent. Then Naomi, drunk at a pool party, shrieking, "I'm a brand," at some poor kid with a GoPro. The guests froze at first, stunned. Then someone laughed. Then more laughter. Then cell phones whipped out faster than champagne glasses, recording everything. Uploading, tagging, live streaming the disaster in real time. Hashtag influencer meltdown, hashtag cyber wedding fail. I watched it all unfold on my laptop, safe and invisible, sipping my coffee. Naomi's face on the screen twisted in horror. She screamed something at the tech crew, waving her arms wildly, her veil tangling. Luca rushed the A/V booth, shouting for someone, anyone, to kill the feed. But they couldn't. The security credentials had been scrambled. All they could do was watch. I leaned back in my chair, feeling the knot that had lived in my chest for 32 years loosen. Finally, gloriously. They had invited the world to witness their perfection. Instead, they got the truth. By the time Naomi's wedding guests finished dessert, the internet had already made me famous. And for once, it wasn't for being the weird, invisible brother. It started with a single TikTok clip, Naomi's furious shriek echoing over the flashing words from the donor they disinvited. Then another video popped up, a shaky recording of the LED walls glitching, Naomi trying to yank a microphone away from the event manager. By midnight, dozens of videos had gone viral. Different angles, different languages, all carrying the same hashtags. Hashtag cyberweddingfail. Hashtag bridezilla unplugged. Hashtag the hacker brother. I sat back on my couch, laptop open, TV muted, watching the chaos unfold like it was the Super Bowl. There was something almost hypnotic about it, the way the story kept spreading. Big accounts picked it up first, meme pages churning out edits at lightning speed. One clip showed Naomi's drunken pool party scream, "I'm a brand," remixed with sad violin music. Another had footage of her toddler dance video spliced over footage of the venue's elegant floral arrangements, with the caption, "From classy to cringy in 0.5 seconds." My favorite was a simple screenshot from the LED wall, captioned, "Imagine banning your brother from the wedding he paid for, and forgetting he's smarter than your whole PR team combined." The comment sections were brutal. Honestly, Hacker Brother is hotter anyway. King behavior. Family full of freeloaders, and he still gave them the best content of the year. I laughed harder than I had in months. For the first time, the world wasn't laughing at me. They were laughing with me. They saw it. They got it. My phone buzzed on the table, vibrating so hard it nearly fell off the edge. Naomi. Then Dad. Then Mom. Then Naomi again. Call after call, text after text, flooding in like a tidal wave of rage. I didn't answer a single one. Instead, I muted the group thread titled Family and turned my ringer off. I poured myself another cup of coffee, pulled a blanket over my lap, and settled back into the couch like a man who had finally learned the value of peace. Across the screen, another edit popped up, a slow zoom on Naomi's horror-stricken face, overlaid with dramatic opera music. This wedding was brought to you by petty justice and one hoodie-wearing genius. I couldn't stop smiling. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the loser. I wasn't the embarrassment. I was the guy who finally stood up for himself and burned their perfect little fantasy world to the ground without lifting a finger. And God, it felt good. When Naomi finally got through to me, she didn't cry or apologize. She went straight to rage, and honestly, that made it even easier. My phone rang again late the next morning. Same number, same name flashing on the screen. I almost let it go to voicemail like the others, but something inside me said, "Pick up." So I did. The second I answered, Naomi's voice exploded through the speaker. "You absolute piece of garbage," she shrieked. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" I didn't flinch. I just sipped my coffee and stared out the window at the peaceful street outside my apartment. "Good morning to you too," I said, my voice calm enough to make her even angrier. "You destroyed my wedding," she shouted. "My sponsors are pulling out. I lost 2 brand deals already because of you." There it was. Not sadness. Not betrayal. Just pure, furious self-interest. She didn't care about family. She didn't care about me. She cared about her brand. I let her rant for a minute, waiting for the inevitable pivot to guilt-tripping. And sure enough, she didn't disappoint. "Do you have any idea how hard I worked for this?" she whined. "You think just because you're good at computers, you can ruin my life?" I let a short silence stretch between us before answering. "You ruined your life?" I said evenly. "The second you decided your family didn't include me." She sputtered, at a loss for words. Before she could regroup, another voice cut in, deeper, more controlled. It was Luca. "Hey, Eli," he said, trying to sound reasonable. "Look, man, we get that you're upset. But this wasn't the way to handle it." I raised an eyebrow. "You mean excluding me after I paid for everything wasn't the way to handle it?" Lucas stumbled over his words. "We didn't want to hurt you. You just didn't want me ruining the vibe," I said, tasting the bitterness but not letting it control me. "You wanted my money, not my presence." He cleared his throat. "Look, Naomi's getting hammered online. She's lost sponsorships. It's serious. Maybe if you issued a statement, said it was just a misunderstanding, that you're still proud of her, we could clean this up." I almost laughed. They still thought they could spin this. I sat up a little straighter, keeping my voice calm but cold. Apologize? For what? For being the only one who saw the hypocrisy? Neither of them said anything. I waited another beat, then said quietly, "You wanted a perfect day without me. Congratulations. You got it." And then I hung up. No yelling. No drama. Just silence. I stared at my phone for a second after the call ended, feeling a strange kind of lightness settle over me. For once, I hadn't folded. For once, I hadn't swallowed it down just to keep the peace. I stood up, stretched my arms over my head, and smiled. They thought they could treat me like nothing. They forgot that in tech, sometimes the one you underestimate is the one who holds the kill switch. When Luca texted me asking to meet up, I knew 2 things immediately. 1, Naomi didn't know about it, and 2, whatever fantasy he bought into was crumbling fast. It was 3 days after the wedding disaster when the text came through. "Luca, hey man, we need to talk. Can we meet?" At first, I considered ignoring it. After everything, why should I even give him the time of day? But something about it, the way he said need, made me curious. I agreed to meet him at a coffee shop downtown. Public place. Neutral ground. When I walked in, Luca was already there, sitting at a corner table, looking like he hadn't slept in days. His suit jacket was rumpled, his hair messy. The confident, glossy guy who once posed in magazine spreads with Naomi was nowhere to be seen. He stood up awkwardly when he saw me. Eli, thanks for coming. I sat down and folded my arms. Make it quick. He rubbed his face, looking around like he was afraid someone would recognize him. Listen, man. I need you to know, I didn't know she wasn't inviting you. I stared at him, unmoving. He fidgeted. I found out after everything was booked. She said it was a vibe thing, you know? That you wouldn't enjoy yourself anyway. I raised an eyebrow. And you just went along with it? He exhaled heavily. I should have said something. I know that now. For a moment, I almost felt bad for him. Almost. He leaned forward, voice dropping. The thing is, Eli, after the wedding blew up, after everything you did, he shook his head. It opened my eyes. I didn't say anything. I let him talk. Naomi's been losing it. Screaming at everyone. Blaming the planner, the A/V team, the photographers, me. She refuses to take any responsibility. His jaw tightened. I tried to tell her she should apologize. Not just to you, to everyone. She said I was disloyal. I tilted my head slightly. And now you're wondering if marrying her was a mistake. He flinched. Didn't deny it. I thought. He swallowed. I thought I was marrying into a family. A real one. Tighten it, you know? I thought the image was just polished for the brand. I didn't realize it was the brand. There it was. He finally saw it. The cold reality I had lived with my whole life. The Stein family wasn't about love. It was about appearances. About using people until they broke. You're not the first to figure it out too late, I said quietly. He looked miserable. I don't even think Naomi loves me. I think she loves what I look like standing next to her. I didn't respond. There wasn't much to say. Finally, Luca leaned back, defeated. I don't know what I'm gonna do, he muttered. That's your problem, I said, standing up. I already solved mine. I left him sitting there, staring into his cold coffee, alone. Walking back to my car, I felt no guilt. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the one picking up the pieces. By the time the internet was done with Naomi, there wasn't a single sponsorship left standing, and somehow, my mother still thought I could fix it. The memes didn't slow down. The jokes didn't die off. If anything, they got worse. Every time Naomi tried to post a new photo, a desperate attempt to rebrand, to claw her way back, the comments would explode. Careful, your brother might live stream this too. From the donor she disinvited. Queen of weddings and bad decisions. Brands that once scrambled to be associated with her quietly unfollowed her accounts. PR firms leaked statements about reevaluating partnerships in the wake of the wedding incident. Even Luca's photography bookings took a hit. Her whole online empire, the thing she had spent years crafting, crumbled in a matter of weeks. And she had nobody to blame but herself. About 2 weeks after the wedding, I got the voicemail. It was my mother. Her voice was raw, desperate, the same tone she used to fake tears during childhood arguments. But this time it wasn't fake. I could tell. Eli, honey, please. Naomi's devastated. She's not eating. She's barely leaving the house. We know you're upset, but please, help us fix this. We're family. I sat there, listening to it twice, 3 times. Help fix this. Like it was a leaky faucet. Like it was something I could just patch up with duct tape and an apology tour. I thought about calling back. For about 5 seconds. Instead, I replied with a single text. Me, actions have consequences. And then I turned off my phone for the night. In the days that followed, Naomi's remaining followers turned on her completely. Every photo she posted, no matter how filtered or polished, turned into a roast session. Even the few friends she had in the influencer world began to distance themselves publicly, pretending they barely knew her. Her once pristine wedding photos, the ones she dreamed would land her in bridal magazines, became memes, reaction gifs, viral TikToks. No magazine spreads. No sponsorships. Just endless reminders that she built her world on shallow loyalty, and now it was collapsing around her. Meanwhile, I went back to work. Quietly. Peacefully. Finally free. When the package showed up at my door, I half expected some desperate apology letter, but what I got was so much better. It was about a month after the wedding when I found the envelope sitting on my doorstep. No return address. No note. Just a plain, heavy envelope with my name written in sharp, rushed handwriting. I opened it right there, standing in the doorway. Inside, there was a handwritten card, and beneath it, a thick stack of paperwork. The card was from Luca. Eli. You were right. About all of it. Thanks for helping me see the truth sooner rather than later. Drinks on me if you're ever in Milan. Luca. Underneath the card were copies of the annulment papers. Filed. Signed. Official. I couldn't help it. I let out a low, honest laugh, right there in the hallway. After all the chaos, the lies, the betrayal, Naomi's perfect fairy tale wedding had lasted less than 30 days. Turns out, when the glitter faded, there wasn't anything real left. I tossed the envelope onto the kitchen counter and grabbed my backpack. There was no dramatic movie moment, no teary-eyed reflection in the mirror, just a quiet understanding. I was done chasing their approval. I was done playing the invisible brother, the family ATM, the shame they kept tucked away like a dusty photo album. I had my own life to build, my own victories to celebrate, my own peace to protect. The weight I'd carried for 32 years, the constant, aching need to be enough for them, finally lifted. I didn't owe them anything anymore. And for once, I wasn't angry. I wasn't even bitter. I was free. I locked the door behind me and headed to work, my hoodie zipped up against the crisp morning air, sneakers hitting the pavement with steady, certain steps. For the first time in a long time, it actually felt good to be myself.